Well, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world, and welcome to another special call. And this week, our topic of the call is arthritis, and it's a very interesting topic because I grew up in Wales, and it would appear that every other person I met in Wales, because it was such a damp, cold climate, had arthritis. And during my life, even as a carpenter, I'd meet older carpenters or tilers, and their wrists, their hands, their knees, they often got riddled with arthritis. Arthritis very much seems to be like an epidemic out there. And I've heard of different arthritis, but I'm not quite sure what they are. And we have a health professional on the call today. She's a master naturopath. She's had a clinical practice for more than 20 years. And she's been trained in biochemistry. She's very smart. She could have become a medical doctor, but she wanted to go the natural way. So with no more to say, Linda Hoggard, are you on the call?
I sure am. Hello, Ian, and hello, everyone.
So good to have you here, Linda. Linda, maybe you could describe more in your terms a little bit more. What is arthritis? Because I'm not even sure myself. I know it's something with inflammation or something. But what is arthritis?
Yeah. Yes, I guess one thing, actually I was talking about Mark Anderson this week, is that anything that ends in the ending itis is actually Latin for inflammation. So we're talking about yet another inflammatory condition. And arthritis is really a general term that means any disorder that affects the joints. And really there's probably about 100 different forms of arthritis. But today we're just going to talk about the most common form, osteoarthritis. And osteoarthritis is very much a degenerative joint disease. And by degenerative, I mean that really the joints are breaking down faster than the body can repair them. And often people will say to me, I feel like I'm breaking down faster than I'm rebuilding, particularly as the aging process accelerates in people. So this breaking down process is often the result of injury, and that could be an accident in a motor vehicle, push bike, motorbikes, falling off trampolines, those sorts of things, sports injuries, or a lot of it we see from repetitive use. And what you were talking about that you saw in Wales amongst carpenters and farmers and things, we see a lot in New Zealand as well, where there are arthritis in the joints that have had a lot of repetitive use from the type of work or the sports that people have done. New Zealand's full of people injured, mainly men with knee injuries from playing lots of rugby and high impact sports like that. Also, at times people can get infections in the joints, and then of course there's the aging process where we don't have enough stem cells migrating like we used to in order to rebuild the joint structure. So this is something that obviously we hear a lot about in humans, but we do a lot of work also with our supplement range with arthritis in animals as well. So a lot of you may know that the main symptoms of arthritis are pain and stiffness. The pain comes from that inflammation of the joint. So just remember that inflammation is a signalling system, and it's there to bring about like the healing and the repair. And when this repair doesn't happen, the inflammation gets worse and worse, and therefore we get more pain and more stiffness. So I think, that essentially summarises the condition quite well, Ian.
Interesting. So osteoarthritis can start with repetitive or overuse of joints, or an infection or a breakdown. Would you say it's really from overuse, or would there be other factors or drivers behind it as well?
Well, I guess, there has to be some sort of damage that happens in the joint space. So a lot of the damage that happens in an injury or overuse is a pressure. So you might see it in someone, let's say someone who lays bricks for a living. And so they're constantly doing this movement with their arm of putting cement on the bricks. And in their 20s and 30s, they're fine, and they think, I'm going to keep doing this until I'm older. And then they'll often turn up in a clinic like mine at 45, 50 going, I don't know how I'm going to keep doing this. I could lay bricks all day when I was younger. I also say, when you were younger, you were doing the same amount of injury, but your repair ability was a lot better. So now you're doing the same amount of injury in a day, but they're just the stem cells there in order to repair that injury on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and it's almost like a slippery slide that you're going down, and it's just getting worse and worse. And of course, as that joint becomes more inflamed, as it's trying to call for more healing, the joint becomes stiffer as the muscles and the tendons kind of contract, trying to protect the joint, and therefore you get that real muscular pain as well as the joint pain and the stiffness, all just kind of, I guess, going around in a circle, getting worse and worse until something happens that can essentially help turn that joint function around.
Interesting, very interesting. Now, we're going to come back to you, Linda, but I have a few people from all over the world on the call. So now let's go over to the United States. Milton in Alabama's on the line. Are you there, Milton?
Hello, Ian.
Milton, it's so nice to have you on the line with your beautiful accent. Can you tell us your story?
Well, I just wanted to reach out to you, wonderful Cerulean family, to say Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to say it's a pleasure, Ian, meeting you for the first time, at our summit in Las Vegas. And for those individuals who weren't at the summit, I'm expecting to see you all next year, July. Get your on board. Well, Ian, I would just want to say the experience I had with taking the products, Seminance Ultra, the Plasma Flow, and the Cyactive, was a free capsule startup. I remember getting the new Seminance Ultra. I got mine in January of 2017. Prior to that, I had 2 knee surgeries. During those periods, I could not move properly. Climbing the stairs, I have to go step by step. Every 3 months, on a regular basis, I have to go get my fluids pulled from my knee and my cortisone shots to keep me going for another 3 months. During this time, I decided, well, there got to be something new, and here comes Michael Farquharson with the Seminance protocol that he wants us to try. And I said, okay, go ahead, because Michael always ready to give. And I just want to reach out also to say, hurry and come back home. We need you, Michael Farquharson. Anyway, I started the product, 3 capsules I took that night before I went to bed. 1 Plasma Flow, 1 Seminance Ultra, and a Cyactive. 3 capsules, not 4, not 5, not 6. And when I woke up in the morning, things had changed tremendously. Since then, I have no problem with fluid gathering in the knees. I have no problem in getting cortisone shots to correct the pain and the discomforts that I usually feel. So reaching out to say, guys, the products, Seminance Ultra, Plasma Flow, and Cyactive, as the Plasma Flow cleanses the arteries, the Cyactive removes the inflammation, and the Seminance Ultra release stem cells. Listen, it's not a cure. All it does is do the jobs that it's intended for. Release stem cells, cleanse the arteries and capillaries, and removes inflammation. What more do we want? And I'm saying, Ian, this is something that I take at least 3 times a day. I'm just walking out the gym, and I just got my 4 products. I got 3 Seminance Ultra, 3 Plasma Flow, and 3 Cyactive poured into a blender and make it in a smoothie. And that's my supper for the night. Thank you, guys. This is what I have to say to you guys on this wonderful product that we're dealing with.
That's beautiful, Milton, and what a great start to the new year. Thank you so much.
Oh, this is awesome. And Linda, I just want to tell to you and say it was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope pretty soon we will be able to hang out again on the dance floor.
Yes, I'll be there in July. Thank you, Milton.
Awesome. Say hi to your sister for me.
Yeah, I sure will.
Great. Well, now we're going to come back to Australia, to an incredible city of Melbourne, Australia, or Melbourne, as it's kind of spelt, to another beautiful lady, an incredible human being. She is so inspiring, and I find her one of the most supportive people I know. I think she supports me a whole lot more than I support her. Linda Hoggard herself, are you on the call?
I certainly am, Ian. I certainly am. And I don't think that's quite true, but anyway, I'll take it.
And it is so delicious you're here tonight, because you are delicious. So, what's your story?
Okay, well, I guess I'll just go to the start that I have osteoarthritis very clearly in my knees, my big toe of all places, and for us women that's a painful place to get it because it really ruins you wearing all sorts of shoes from a vanity perspective, and also in my hand. Now, as Linda said, a lot of this comes about from wear and tear and accidents, and when it comes to my knees in particular, I used to walk around 250 kilometres a week, and I did that for a number of years, very trim, very healthy, but not knowing what I know now about health, I wasn't doing anything to prevent or to take anything to increase my stem cell numbers. And it got to the point where walking became a challenge for me to walk too far, because the pain level in my knees was just intense. So I went looking for something to help me with that, which is when I came across Stem Enhance Ultra. And I first started to take the product, not really sure what was about to happen. But I guess my expectation was a bit unrealistic. I wanted something that I'm going to wake up the next morning and I'm going to feel like $1 million. Well, it didn't happen. It took about 3, maybe 4 weeks before I started to notice a slight change. When I say a slight change, it was more a slight change in the pain level. So I did listen to a couple of testimonials and read a little bit about it, and I increased the dose because I originally only started on 2 tablets a day, and I took those in the morning. And then I read a little bit about how you can take more pills if you've got more going on in your body. So then I increased my number of stem cells, but I also walked up and down the stairs a couple of times a day just to cause my knee to feel the pain a little bit, hopefully to attract more stem cells. Well, 7 months down the track, I went to Vietnam and I walked an average of 10 kilometres a day, and I was pain-free. So for me, that was a massive change in what was happening. Because, whilst I was strolling, that was still a long distance for me to walk, given the state my knees had been in. But I just would also like to share my first awareness of when I realised my knees were repairing. I was actually at a friend of mine's place, Vicky, you know Vicky. I was sitting at her place on the couch, and I picked up a tea plate in either hand, and I stood up. And I was absolutely amazed, because sitting on a couch, for me to get up with my knees the way they were, I would have to push my hands down to propel myself up. Since I've been taking the products, and I do take all 3, this mobility has increased incredibly. I just find them amazing, Ian, absolutely amazing.
Well, you are amazing. But what I'd like to know is, what products do you take, and how much of them do you take every day? Okay.
With the Stem Enhance, I now take 2, 3 times a day. If I'm going to be doing a lot of walking or whatever, I will increase that and take an extra couple of tablets, because, I need the support in my body. But I take Cyactive every morning, and I have to tell you, let's get excited about Cyactive joints coming. I actually got some Cyactive joints when I went to Summit, and man, that was amazing. I thought, I was on a pretty good track where I was going, but that Cyactive joint was incredible. I can't wait for it to come out, because I really felt a great benefit from taking that product. But I also take Plasma Flow. As you know, Ian, I'm marginally over 25, and I need support. My body is breaking down. But now, just before I went to Vietnam, I went to the doctors, as you do, to have a checkup. And all of my tests came back clear. I have a thyroid issue. My thyroid reading was normal. My blood pressure is normal, 120/80. I feel the best I have felt in years. And that's from taking all 3 products. And for me, it's a religion. I worship these pills every day.
Beautiful. And it's funny, I'm getting that feedback from everyone around me with this new Sciactive joint. And I cannot wait for it to come out because I think it's going to take us all to another level again. So, Linda,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
You are most welcome, and thanks for having me on the call.
Now we're going to go back to the United States to another wonderful human being. He's one of the pillars of our company. He's always here. Everett Potter, you're on the call.
Yes, Ian, I'm here.
Well, you're always here, and that's just incredible. Everett, what is your story?
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit on what happened to me, and this started early in my life. I had it through my teens, my 20s and my 30s. I had arthritis and osteoarthritis severely, and osteoporosis too. And it showed up on the x-rays and that, but, it was in my feet, knees, hips, all up my back, shoulders, right to the top of my neck. And I started working on turning that around, and I'll tell you, as we speak today, I no longer have bone spurs in the bottom of my feet. They're gone. My joints are solid, pain-free in all joints, and all my sockets are tight. And the other thing that's happened to me, I've actually grown back cartilage in my lower back, and all my hip sockets have tightened up. So that's a big plus for me, and I'm pain-free, and I'm doing excellent. And in November, I had an automobile accident, and had to go and see a chiropractor because I didn't realize I pushed so hard on the brake, but I did, and just pushed out the hip a little bit, got it adjusted, and I waited so many days, went back, seen the chiropractor again, got another adjustment, and when I went back again, they could not believe, and the chiropractor told me, says, you're healing very, very fast, and it just feels good to be pain-free, and I'm sitting here, I can walk, I can run, I can do whatever I want, but back in my 20s and 30s, I could not do that. I was in really severe shape. That's how bad I was. Back to you, Ian.
Well, Everett, it was so great to get to hang out with you in Hawaii recently. And there you are, coming back from surfing in your board shorts on the beach. And,
yeah.
And you do look great, and you do perform great. So thank you, as always, Everett. So let's go back to Linda in New Zealand. Linda, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Look, I want to talk about specifically the roles of stem cells and inflammation and circulation. But before that, do you want to just give some general comments to what you just heard just now?
Yeah, I guess knowing my brain, they're not particularly general. They're quite specific, and they are along the lines of what we're going to talk about with the 3 products.
Okay, all right. I'll get into it then. So
yeah, let's go.
Tell me more about what impact would more stem cells have on arthritis?
Heaps. Heaps and heaps. And I think the testimonials we just heard are absolute paramount to that. And so there's quite a few things that science tells us about adult stem cells. We know that our adult stem cells can become any type of cell in our body. So, of course, when we break that down and look at dysfunction and disease and inflammation coming into the joint spaces, we know that adult stem cells can particularly become chondrocytes, and these are the new cells that produce new cartilage. And like Everett was saying, he has new cartilage showing up in his joint spaces in his lumbar spine, and this is something that I really started to see in my clinic. I studied to be a naturopath, but also a structural kinesiologist. So I've always done a lot of work with people in a lot of pain. And essentially when I started adding in Stem Enhance into my clinic, the results just went through the roof with people, particularly with osteoarthritis. And I've always worked in areas where there's been a lot of farmers and a lot of people who've worked really hard. And one thing I started to see is people started bringing me their x-rays and their MRIs, and they would have probably been on the product at least 10 months into the next year. They would have been having their follow-up with their specialists, and we could see the cartilage rebuilding, the end bone remodeling. And, often I've been seeing this in people who are 70, 80 years of age, and it's really exciting. I always say I went and studied what I studied, one, to find my own health and to quench all the questions I had about the human body, but also to become a really productive and effective therapist. And I really am, and I would say to any practitioners who are listening to this call who work with osteoarthritis, there ain't nothing like getting people's stem cells moving and making more chondrocytes, building new cartilage, building new bone cells. And something else I've found in the research is that adult stem cells have also been linked with an increase of lubricin, and that's a protein found in the joint fluid that acts like a shock absorber. So hence, we hear these stories of people with quite significant pain, stiffness, a lot of extra pain on movement, having a turnaround, and a lot of that is the things that you see in people when you start using something that allows their stem cells to move out of the bone marrow at a greater rate, and then you get to see what the stem cells do, and that's the potential in the joint spaces.
Beautiful. Now, what sort of impact would more or better circulation have on arthritis?
Once again, quite significant, and I would say to anyone who perhaps is only using the Stem Enhanced product, if things, particularly in their joint spaces, aren't really moving along perhaps as they expected, the one thing they really need to think about is using a product like Plasma Flow to open up their microcirculation. So we know that we get fibrin in the capillaries that affects the flow in the microcirculation. And of course, your stem cells, once they've got into the blood, they can only move from the very smallest point in the blood flow where the capillaries turn into the venules. And that's the point where the stem cell migrates into the body at a cellular level. So if there is interference in the microcirculation, it's going to affect the ability for the stem cells to really penetrate deeply into areas. So one of the main things that creates or leads to more fibrin is inflammation and oxidation. And this is my personal observation. Sometimes you see people where they're sort of saying, oh, I can feel this and this is happening, but they might be like, my right knee, I don't think my stem cells are getting to my right knee or their big toe, whatever it is. And then if they're not using the plasma flow, it gets added, or I increase the amount of the plasma flow. And that's often the combination to open up that microcirculation so that the stem cells we've invested in getting moving from the bone marrow can better penetrate deeper into those areas in the body. And of course, then you get better microcirculation in lots of other places as well.
Interesting. And what effect would inflammation or our Cyactive products have on arthritis?
So I guess as I'm always saying, it's all about inflammation. Most things, when you drill down to them biochemically, are all driven by inflammation in the body. So the fact that we have such a lovely product as Cyactive that's a really specific anti-inflammatory along the COX-2, lipoxygenase and prostaglandin pathways, it really adds to the ability to quench out that inflammatory load and therefore, changes the way those joint structures can feel for people, and particularly, I'll try not to go on an anti-inflammatory tangent, but a lot of physical pain in the body is driven by those prostaglandin pathways. So the fact that we can work on that as well. So as I was doing some extra reading this week, I've got some amazing literature to just refresh myself on for when Cyactive Joint comes out in the next 2 to 3 months, because, wow, what a pack that's going to be to use Stem Enhanced with Cyactive Joints, because you'll still have that anti-inflammatory effect of the Cyactive, but with that extra combination of the cherry tart and the egg membrane complexes and having the proteoglycans and the collagens in there as well. And then, of course, being able to work on the microcirculation with people as well. It's going to be cool. And I think you can tell I'm excited because I've already started writing the talk on it.
It's just so exciting with the feedback I'm getting. And look, it's like the synergy of our products is like, I mean, it's like heaven. I mean, it just gets better, better, and better. So with that, any final comments?
I guess my comments are probably similar on these calls, to be really patient. For a lot of people who are in pain in their joints, they really want their stem cells to go all of those areas first up. But of course, we have a product that allows for a greater stem cell migration, and then our body basically, different areas of the body will determine where those stem cells are going. So for some people, it can happen. I think it was Milton who was just saying, like, overnight he knew things were different. And I tend to call that the grease and oil change effect. It's almost if you could take your body to the mechanic and get all your joints re-oiled and wake up the next morning and go, wow, I feel like I've got some new grease and things. And that's essentially, in my observation, people having a really quick effect from the anti-inflammatory effect that's, of course, in the Stem Enhance and in the Cyactive. And then it's time and the consistent migration of stem cells that's required to actually get to a point where you would see changes in an X-ray. Those changes that Everett are talking about, they don't happen in months, but they happen from the consistency of not just taking enough product to get out of pain, but taking enough product to also give your body the building blocks to repair, and it's a timing thing. So be patient with the process. Make sure you're taking enough. I would always say that Stem Enhance is a big priority, and that you'd want to be on a good 4 to 6 capsules a day, and then to back that up with a couple of capsules of Cyactive and Plasma Flow.
Beautiful. Well, I want everyone to stay on the line because Mark Parseekin has a special announcement, but let me just end this call, end the recording. So, Linda Hoggard, thank you so much for all you give to us every week. Everett Potter and Milton Baker in the States, thank you so much. And Linda Cargill Self in Melbourne, Australia, thank you so much for being here. Thank all of you for all over the world for being on the call. We'll end the recording, then we'll pass it to Mark Parseekin.